it's Mike Byrnes here with another episode of Business Bests. Hope that the content's been helpful for you, and maybe there's some tips in here that make you more successful. One of the things that I wanted to cover today are how to be more effective with marketing. Most businesses want to grow, and so marketing is a key part of that. One of the things that you'll see is marketing is going to evolve at a really rapid pace. So at the end of this little segment, I'll cover that and AI and how that starts to get involved. But I hammer it home all the time. You want to have a great idea of who your target market is, or if you have multiple target markets, it's just a little bit more work. But the more that you know about them, the more sophisticated you can be with your marketing. So some basic things that you learn in business school if you go for your MBA to get marketing is really how to create a persona. So kind of like what would your ideal client look like, and you build that out. It's a little goofy, but I've even seen like advertising agencies create a cutout of a person, and then they give it a name, and they have all these different characteristics of who that person is. You don't have to go that goofy, but I would say that you probably need to know a certain amount of things. You need to know demographics, so how much money they make, where do they live, what are their occupations, those types of things. The second one is regional, so where do they live, do they have a second home, where do they work, all those different things will just give you opportunities of figuring out where you would penetrate that target market. The third one is behavioral. So what do they do? What do they do with their kids, their grandkids? Do they like sports? Do they like other social things? Who do they hang around with? What do they do in their free time? Are they on their phone all the time? And so the demographic information will give you kind of a first slice of some things that can influence your marketing based on just knowing that age range. But the more you dive down in the target market, the better you'll be. So that's the third category, is behavioral, and that's a really great one. The fourth one is psychographic. So how do they think? Is there a political bend, religion? Do they care about their kids more than anyone else? What are they doing that's philanthropic? How do they think about that? What do they care about the most? All those types of things can influence your target market, and they can also help you figure out how to penetrate in there and be in front of them. So really spend a lot of time on doing that research. I'll mention AI a few times in this little segment, and one of the things you can do is create that, if you want to call it a persona, but you create that target market information and just keep dumping stuff in. Create a file, and you can ask for research to be gathered with AI. You can do it online on your own too, and the more you read about that segment, the better you're going to be at marketing. I guarantee you're not guessing, you're not throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing if it sticks, if you know your target market better than anyone else. So then from a marketing standpoint, really what you want to look at is inbound marketing was a term, came up a decade or so ago, but how do you get marketing to work for you kind of for free? That's basically what inbound marketing is to a certain extent. So what are those things that's going to drive traffic to your website, for example? So do you have a good content strategy? Is that an article on your website? Is it a vlog? So a blog, I hate that term, by the way, because I feel like that's people thinking about someone ranting and raving. But like maybe your resources or your insights or whatever you call that information is really valuable. But sometimes people want it not just in text. Maybe they want it words. Maybe they want graphics too. We're in a world where there's too many words, but there's also a world where you just don't have time to sit through a video because you have to have some patience and some time allocated. Then maybe you're driving. So maybe a podcast or something that you can listen to is the type of content that you have. Infographics, super powerful. I joke my friends, they probably think I need to read books with pictures in them still. But there's a reality that we're still in this world where we're very visual. 2/3 of us are visual learners. So how can you actually use graphics to your advantage? So now I've kind of listed out a whole bunch of different ways that you can have content. Create it for your own website, use it in social media, etc. We'll go into that in a second. But now going back to that content, it's pretty cool if you create it for your own website, but does it carry more weight if you're published and you're out there and the media is covering you? I would say 100% you're going to look like a vetted expert, and that can carry more weight. You can actually, if it's an article, you can have a hyperlink in it. Hopefully, if the publisher will allow that, that can drive traffic to your website. If anything, it can be a backlink. So if you have a bunch of sites pointing into your site, when Google ranks them, they really just say, hey, that one has more backlinks going in. It must be more important. And there's credibility of backlinks too. So if a publisher gets 150,000 visitors a week and they're pointing to your little site that only gets 100 visitors a week, that backlinks can actually carry more weight than if it was the other way around. So something to think about there. One of the things you want to do with your website too is if you get people into your site, how do you capture them? What's that thing that somebody is going to trade their information for in a world where we do not want another email? None of us want another email, right? Our inbox are overloaded. We definitely don't, we're now in a world where we don't want phone calls from strangers. So what would be so cool that I would go to a website and say, you know what, I have to have that. I'm going to give you my name, my email, and my phone number, or at least one of those. And that is important for a business because then that person becomes a real lead. They're not just coming to your site and bouncing off. So what is that thing that you would do to tease them to share that information? Marketing lingo, that's called a freemium. So that's a giveaway that you're giving something away for free, but it's really not free because they're actually, the currency is that they're going to trade their information. So if they're on your site, some of this content that you have is public to everybody, but some of it's kind of behind a firewall. And so maybe it's the 5 tips that the target market has to know about. What is that thing that they're going to say, wow, when I'm on your website, I have to have that information. So ideas could be something simple like a 2-sided flyer, a book or an ebook are very popular. Maybe they can get invited to an exclusive event in person or a webinar. Maybe they can get an email series. And so I haven't seen a ton of success with just sign up for our e-newsletter because a lot of people don't want another email unless you have a really good, powerful email that you're sending out. But so the nice thing about these freemiums is with online marketing, you can test and learn. So you can kind of see what your target market is interested in. You could test the placement on your website. I would say if you go into an article, it's on topic A, that's where that freemium should be. It shouldn't just always be on your homepage. The other thing is, oh, by the way, you list all your services, someone's reading about your services, boom, put the freemium there too so they're on the right page. Some people are going to circumvent your homepage. They're going to go right to the content. With good inbound marketing, they're going to go right to the content that they want. And so make sure the freemium is there. Do not count on your Contact Us page to be the main source for people to get those online leads coming to you. If you do, you'll find that you have a lot of traffic to your website. Hopefully you have a lot of traffic to your website, but they're not converting. They're not getting into the sales funnel. So you have to, this is generic advice, but it's something that I see that's so common, and it's such a great way to improve your ability to take those leads that they're not real to you until you have their contact information and you can drip on them or reach out to them. One of the things you're going to want to look at is all the statistics for your website too. So if you have a bounce rate that's really high, a bounce rate, if you don't know what it is, it's like a rubber ball coming to your website, and your website's a wall, if it bounces right off, you probably did a disservice. Like you don't get them in there bouncing on different pages, creating more interest, finding other ways to convert them. Every once in a while, you have a simple page like a registration page for your website. That's okay to have a high bounce rate, but really if you're going to your homepage, you want the bounce rate to be low because you want them going into different pages. Really quickly, talking about email and social media, I really believe that AI is going to help email and it's going to hurt email. So it is going to create a lot of easy content to distribute. So you can have more frequent email, maybe more impactful email. It's also going to have all kinds of metrics, and it will look at the data and give you advice on better times to email, better things to email, etc. Problem is, it's going to create more content, not just for you. It's going to allow all kinds of marketers to create more content. So there's going to be more emails. I think we get over 1 trillion emails a day. So if and that's the world statistic, there's too many emails, right? And so a lot of people have always said that they predicted the death of email. That's not true. Email's not going away, not in the near future at least. But email is going to be a little bit harder to crack. So where I said more email is going to be coming to that recipient, oh, by the way, AI is also going to be used to scrub that information out. So filters, you're already seeing a Gmail or whatever service that you use, Yahoo, or maybe it's something that you use for work, Apple, whatever it might be. You're starting to see that spam folder or whatever it might be called is now filtering out things that you don't regularly read. It's just kind of learning from your habits. It also has its own spam metrics and rates different senders, and so it's going to do that scrub, but then it'll get more advanced knowing what you really want to read, and it'll make that come up at the top of your in-bin, or it'll be the only stuff that comes through in your in-bin, and you'll have to go look for those promotional types of things. So with email, it's going to evolve. You're going to have to start to be better at it. Social media, I would say it's becoming more cluttered now as it's harder for a business to share information. You're starting to see Facebook and Instagram already and TikTok and all that. It's all this video content and all these different things are coming up, not just what you share. There's more competition for things that are going to catch someone's eye. I will say the one good thing about social media is AI might steal a lot of search results. So when you go into Google, it's going to have the AI overview, for example. And so people might not actually get to your website anymore. They might be going to your website or finding out about your content through social media. So that's where you're going to have a really good, well thought out strategy with social media. It's going to become more important, believe it or not, but it is going to be more competitive. There's going to be more and more content, and it's going to be much harder to get in front of the people that you want to be in front of. Another important category for marketing is around PR. I speak all over the country on how to get PR without hiring an agency. It can be worth it spending money for an agency, but in the beginning, people want to dabble, and so they can do it on their own. They need a little bit of time and maybe some dollars, but more of the time to get in front of the press that they want. So when you start to think about what your PR strategy is, this stuff builds on the things we've talked about earlier, and you really want to have a target market identified, and part of that research is what do they read, what do they watch, what do they listen to. Then you want to build a PR strategy before you even get started. Is it national press? Is it local press? Is it in the industry press? Is it non-industry press? Are you looking at something that is your traditional media, or are you looking at something that's non-traditional? So to kind of talk about those a little bit, national press might be you're in the USA Today, or local press is you're in your local town paper. Industry press might be you're in the industry magazine, the publication that everyone reads when they're in that industry. Or it's just kind of a generic thing that goes out to everybody, like a city newspaper. And then this one's interesting. A lot of PR firms don't even think this through, really. Is traditional and non-traditional. They've always really been trained about traditional press, so getting you in a magazine, getting you on a TV segment, maybe having you show up on a radio program. A nice segue into that is someone's podcast. So the PR agencies are starting to think about other different news sources, and that's expanding, that definition's expanding. But reality is it's where your target market is. Where are those eyeballs? Where are they making decisions? I use widows all the time as an example of a target market. But if somebody just lost their significant other and they're sitting at the funeral home office, or maybe they're on the website, how great would it be to have some PR of you giving advice or they're giving advice to your target market? You have some kind of partnership, you've got the PR, and you're in the right spot in kind of a non-traditional way. So to think that through a little, maybe you've written an article like 5 things you need to know after you've lost your spouse, and rather than get it published in the Wall Street Journal, which the widow might not read, you're actually published on the website of the funeral home. And now that person's going through a really trying time, and by the way, they see your article right when they need it, right in the right spot, and you've now hit a home run. You've made that connection getting to your target market, and that's really, really important. One of the problems that people have, especially when they do it their own, but even PR agencies sometimes are bad with this, is not being newsworthy. If you ask a journalist how many press releases they get, it's crazy, and a lot of it's just marketing lingo, and it's all salesy, and it's not anything that can really be used by the journalist to get you PR. So you have to start to think about how to be newsworthy. You have to put yourself in their shoes, and then how can you create content for them, basically, that makes their job easier. Whether you're quoted or you're providing information, or whether you're on a news segment, whatever it might be, or even writing your own article and going to an editor, you really, really, really need to know that target audience better than anyone else. What's something that keeps them up at night? What's something that they're really worried about, or that they have big decisions to make about? Be there and help that audience. Earlier on, I talked about client research and how important that is. Well, part of that research could be either in one-on-one meetings or in survey work or focus groups. What are those things you're concerned about? If you then have that information and go to the editor and go, hey, we have very similar markets. These are what my clients are like, and this is what your audience is like. I just want you to know I've done this research, and these are the things that really concern them. Do you think that would concern your audience too? If they say yes, then you're in. Your foot's in the door. You can say, hey, can I create this article or be on this news segment to talk about it? I think your audience would really like it. So now you're speaking their language. You're trying to help them as opposed to trying to help me. I need to get in your magazine or your newspaper. I need to be on your TV show or your radio program. That's not how you contact the press. In the presentation that I give all the time, how to get PR without hiring an agency, I do talk about how to tie in with the hottest topic. One of the things that you're going to want to do, there's a term called newsjacking. You might have some really great shelf life material that'll last for a long time, but there's something you could tie it to in the press. So famous people always die, or marriages fall apart, or there's some crisis in the economy, or whatever it might be. There's probably some way that you can newsjack whatever the hottest topic of the day is and get yourself in. So, for example, if you worked with divorcees and you have a lot of great services that you help them, and you see these 2 famous movie stars get divorced, you can take that topic and say, hey, lessons for people that get divorced from such and such divorce. So you don't even need to be an expert on their divorce. You just take that topic that is going to get more eyeballs, going to get more clicks, going to have more listeners, and now you've actually jumped in and inserted yourself, and you're an expert. And so if other people are going through whatever that situation is, they're going to want to think about you and use you. The press can be a little bit of a prickly bunch. And so you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes. Maybe they're underpaid. They're definitely overworked. They have more deadlines than they've ever had. I remember hearing an editor of he's retired now, but he used to say he would write an article and he would spend a half a day crafting the perfect title. I guarantee they don't have time to do that stuff anymore, right? Like they need to get these things out. They have all kinds of deadlines. And for example, a magazine or a newspaper, they had all kinds of deadlines, but now they might have social media responsibilities. They might have different website responsibilities, whatever. So they're really, really a tough bunch because they're busy. But if you can crack into that and pitch an idea in an effective way and help them, you're in, and they're always going to want to use you. I had just had a person that I work with to get press for my business. Once they used me for 5 weeks straight, and then it went cold. I waited a week or two, and I said, "Hey, by the way, I was just thinking about you the other day in that article that you wrote. It was so great. Let me know if I ever can help you again." And boom, we're going to create a whole nother cycle of getting quoted. And so do not be disenchanted to get rejected right away. You just need to get your foot in the door. Then when you become that reliable resource, they're going to want to come to you all the time. It's extra work for them to go find really good resources, and they have to kiss a lot of toads, so to speak, to get the person that they want. So it's a relationship industry too. Once you get in, just like we've said, how to thank clients, how to thank strategic alliances, you really should have a thank you strategy for the press and really work with them and to build out that human relationship. If they'll let you connect with them on social media, especially if it's something like Facebook and you really get to know them behind the scenes, who do they want to quote, a stranger or their friend? And so if you can create a friendship once you get your foot in the door, that's wonderful. Another thing they really want to hear is I have a large distribution, so when I get quoted in your article, I'm going to share it with everybody, because sometimes they're paid or compensated on how well their piece performs. So for example, if an article gets 100 clicks versus one gets 10,000 clicks, their boss is going to reward them for the one that gets more traffic. Because in the reality, those metrics are important for their business. They need to get clicks so they can pay for advertising or whatever it might be, sponsorships, etc. So you're helping them do their job. If you can actually be that distribution engine, promise you're going to share it in email, social media, etc., they're going to love you for it. Press can be a wonderful, wonderful tool to help you, whatever your business is, get exposure. Sometimes it's just to allow the prospect to not have to take so much time kicking the tires because they're going to see you as a vetted expert. So make sure you come up with a whole strategy on how to maximize press for your business so that it's just not this like great thing that happens and then it's a flash in the pan and it's gone. Another topic I want to talk about today, really covered a whole bunch of things around growth. So one of the topics that I would really love to get into more, and I speak on the country all the time, is how to be a more effective salesperson. You hear the thing, people say like sales is a bad word and I don't want to be a salesman. But the reality is every single one of us is selling all day long. If we have a significant other and we're going to the movies and one person wants one movie and the other person wants the other movie, you kind of have to do a little bit of a sales approach to get what you want. Or maybe more frequently, you're going out to dinner. Like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do for activities on the weekends? Maybe you have kids and you're trying to convince them to do what you want to do, not versus the other thing that they want to do. So the reality is we're salespeople all the time, whether it's in a business format or not. And you really should have a really good technique for it. There's the poor used car salesman approach that people in that industry, I feel bad for them because they get seen as the toughest salespeople, or the door-to-door person that knocks, and that industry is dying out a little bit, but still exists from time to time. All the way to the very consultative salesperson that you don't even feel like they're selling. They're just trying to help you. And that's really when the advice that I give, I focus more in on that area. How do you solve their problem so that you're actually doing them a service and then they want to buy what you're buying? Sometimes even the best salespeople talk someone out of buying their product or service, because then that person's going to have so much trust for that salesperson that they'll actually trust the next thing out of their mouth when they do that. One of the things that we really work on is, again, knowing your target market, having a really well thought out process, wording and scripts, although I don't want anyone to ever read a script, but really kind of know what are those hot buttons, what are those things that can move the dial. Also doing all kinds of resistance preparation. So what are the 10 to 100 reasons your prospect's going to say no when you're trying to sell to them? And do you have an answer for it? Something that's not scripted again, but do you know, like, put yourself in their shoes, like, where are they coming from? What might resist, what might keep them from wanting to team up with you? Another important part of the sales process is cadence, marketing and sales working together. AI is going to help in a big way of how to keep somebody strong and interested and move them towards conversion. But what does the ideal sales funnel look like? How do you get them in? How do you move them along? What are the different touch points? Map that out. And what are those things that are going to be really impactful? And when do you use them? And you're not going to use them all the time. What things are automated? Like a follow-up email after a meeting that should go every time? Or is it something that, like, they're really interested in topic A, maybe D, but they don't want B and C, so you have to customize the follow-up. Again, AI can help you really get things drafted quickly, but that could be really important. Maximizing CRM, so really having a strategy to take notes, to have follow-ups automated, to put reminders in calendars, whatever that might be. AI is going to help from a sales perspective. It's also going to help in an incredible way in prospecting and getting lists, creating flags for people that would be very interested in certain moments. So you're going to maybe, instead of calling 10,000 people, here's the hot 10 that you should call today or reach out today. Those types of processes will be really effective as AI develops. Pipeline management is huge. So how do you get people into the pipeline? First of all, you have to have a pipeline. So an Excel file is a bare minimum. Tracking it, spending time on it. You know, the most effective salespeople actually will be preparing in advance before the week starts. How do I map this out? How do I align this? How do I be most effective with my time? Really advanced things are using AI to make you more successful if you're going to do outbound calls. If you're going to do email and marketing, how do you use AI to make that more effective, to make the lead stronger? What are those triggers in the marketing that would make that hot lead hot as opposed to lukewarm or cold, so you can save time? Now, looking at your sales funnel, where do you spend the time? You should have some analysis of saying these are the people that should be the easiest to convert. Some basic stuff too is most salespeople think they're great at what they do, but reality is if you do the research, a third party researches the prospect after the meeting, they can give so much valuable insight into how that salesperson performed. Did they talk too much? Did they sell too much? What it might be. Every prospect can be unique in some way, but the reality is the more insight you have on the techniques, how you talk, your tone, empathy, all those different things can carry a lot of weight. And it's just like golf. If you're not always working on your swing, you're eventually going to start slicing or hooking in the woods. Sales is the same thing. You kind of always got to be perfecting it and maximizing what you're doing. Cadence, marketing, and sales is so important. So when you figure out what that process is, actually really have a really good successful strategy. One random outbound call, for example, is not going to do as well as a follow-up. Maybe it was a direct mail that they got. You got the call, and then you got the email, and then maybe you got invited to an event. Doesn't have to be those four things, but you're now starting to see how much more effective that sales call could be. From a sales perspective, there's all kinds of different techniques. I love to get into them and kind of customize it to the person I'm working with, because there's really not one size fits all for sales approaches. But I love that topic. Again, we're all salespeople, so always try to be better at it, whatever you do. Again, I'm Mike Byrnes. This program is called Business Best, and I'm hoping I'm providing some valuable information for you. Thank you for your time.